Hi, it's Patty Jackson here to talk about the liberating freedom of healthy boundaries. I've been working with people for a long time and I hear them say, yeah, I need to get better established boundaries. And our boundary really is that place of responsibility, that line of responsibility. In the last video, we talked about the 4 things that you can control, and that's your breath, your focus, your imagination, and your response. Well, that means that those are the 4 things that are in someone else's control. And we can't control what they're focused on. We can't control what they're thinking. We can't control what they're feeling. There's so many things we can't control about other people. And the problem is their stress can be contagious. Their mood can affect us. And when we do not have healthy boundaries with other people, it makes it a lot easier for who they are to affect us. And suddenly that makes us be out of control. So a healthy boundary is being very clear on what you're responsible for and very clear on what other people are responsible for, and then staying in your lane of responsibility. Healthy boundaries is something that I was really aware of when I was a 6th grade teacher. I set up my class, I had some really nice rules, and I would enforce them regularly. And then the class just understood the rules and they followed the rules. So I didn't enforce them so regularly. People would slip up a little bit, but I thought they'd navigate back. And over time, the group dynamic of the classroom would go down. And then I'd have to reestablish those rules again. And they'd be going and clicking and working really well. And then all of a sudden, I'd start to slip on reinforcing them. And the class would start to get more and more talkative and more off focus. And I found that there was constantly a rhythm in my enforcing the boundaries. Once I realized that, I could keep that rhythm within the realm of what works for me instead of having it go so far and having to bring it way back. Another way that you can understand healthy boundaries is a story that I tell about my dog. My dog, I was trying to teach the boundary of the yard lines, and I thought I could do that without underground fencing. But it didn't work. And when we didn't have that underground fencing, then she would run out of our yard and bark at people. And when she went out of her healthy boundary, it made other people scared. It made them feel unsafe, and it actually made her feel unsafe because she would go into the road where traffic was. And the drivers would feel unsafe because they were afraid they'd hit a dog that they didn't want to hit. So we put up the underground fencing, and after a short time of her knowing that there was going to be consistent boundaries there, she stayed safe within them and didn't even get near the line of that boundary because she knew where they were, and she knew that every time she got there, there'd be a little warning, and then she would actually get the electric impulse of discomfort when she crossed them. This is like our relationships with other people. When other people start crossing the boundary of responsibility and start coming in and taking on my responsibility, taking on the things that I am responsible for, the actions that I said that I'd do, and that was within the agreement of what I would do, it starts to make relationships really frustrating. I have my own way of taking care of my things, and other people have their own way of taking care of theirs. And when we have an agreement that you're going to take care of this and I'm going to take care of this, things run really smoothly. But when we have an agreement and then I start reaching out of my boundary and trying to micromanage somebody else, or they start reaching out of their boundary and trying to micromanage me. So the answer to the problem is to have consistent, healthy boundaries. Well, my dog had the boundaries for a long time, and then one day the battery in her collar died, and she stayed within the yard for a long time. So we didn't put the batteries back in. But then she started going out of the boundaries a little bit, and the more we left that collar with batteries dead in it, the more she went out of those boundaries, until finally we were back at that same place again. She was barking at people walking by. It scared small children, even though she's a very safe dog. It still scared them. And drivers were getting scared. And my kids were being scared that the dog was going to get hurt by a car. So we put the collar back on, and showed her a little bit, but she had kind of forgotten what those boundaries were. She went through the fence a few times and then didn't know how to get back in because those boundaries were in place and didn't even know how to come back home. And then what would happen next was we'd leave her outside and she'd stay so close to the house because she was so afraid about where that now unpredictable clear boundary is that we established long ago. The same things go on in our relationships. So how can you establish healthy boundaries in your relationships so that you can be really comfortable with the things you're responsible for and the things that are in your control, and other people can stay in their space and in their bubble and take care of the things that are theirs? It's by exercising those 4 things that you can control and consistently holding boundaries. If someone starts to put their responsibility on you, don't take it. For example, if it's my job to take out the garbage every day and not my job to do the dishes, and the person that's supposed to be doing the dishes starts not doing the dishes, I'm not going to take on that responsibility without a clear communication and a new agreement. If I don't take out the garbage and someone, in the moment that someone else wants me to take out the garbage, and that person gets upset and yells at me, that is also crossing the boundary. Okay? And the only reason why anyone would yell at me is because they weren't aware of the things that they were responsible for, the things that they can control. Okay? In the previous video, we decided we talked about how you can control your breath, you can control your focus. So if you're really frustrated at someone for not taking care of their responsibility, you come back in here and control your focus, get clear on the picture of the solution you want, and then respond to the other person. Without taking care of the 4 things that I can control, when I'm upset with someone for not taking care of the things they are responsible for, I will be in a reactive state, and I will cross my boundary. My energy of frustration will be something that the other person can feel, whether they're aware of it or not. And it will start to build a little brick, a little separation between me and the other person. But when I feel frustrated because someone didn't do the dishes, I can take a deep breath, come inside here, focus on the frustration and know it's okay, and then start focusing on what would I like to see and see the picture of what I'd like to see. And what I'd like to see is not the how-to. What I'd like to see is the end result, that we get back on track, taking care of our responsibilities in a timely manner and respecting each other's agreements. That's the solution I'd like to see. And it feels great, and it feels comfortable, and it feels honoring and respectful. Then I can respond to that other person. And when I'm talking to them, I'm not going to be talking to them like this with all this frustration inside of me. So it's going to be easier for them to hear me. And even if they're not in a cooperative place, they're in a kind of agitated space inside, I'm not going to take it on because I know I'm speaking clearly from my power. It is not my fault that this wasn't done, and it is okay to talk, and I am being someone who is safe in my communication. And here is how I can, again, teach people how to treat me. By taking care of the 4 things that I can control and taking care of the healthy boundaries that I have. Now, in the Personal Leadership Mastery course, I have 2 tools that I don't have the time to get into today that can help you to clear up any place where you have some habits where you don't really know why you keep reacting in a way with somebody else. And when you clear up those things inside, you don't have them sitting in here where you're ready to react again. But you can clean that up, get back into your power, and get back into that really good, solid feeling inside of you. And start reestablishing some better boundaries with those people, particularly boundaries of emotions and particularly boundaries of taking care of things in your physical space. Personal Leadership Masteries, I want to tell you just a little bit more about the course now. The course first starts with you. It gives you some pictures about the inside world. It will show you how you can navigate that inside world in a different way. We go through 7 steps to positive change. So when you have these patterns inside, it's going to take some time to reestablish some new patterns of responding within yourself. It is so common to go into the fight or flight pattern within ourselves. And it is common to get lost in conflicting thoughts. I should, but I shouldn't. I want, but I don't want. Instead of going back into that creative space of getting into your imagination of the solution. This stuff takes a lot of work, but so does continuing to show up time after time again, trying to solve it before taking care of this stuff on the inside, where you have your inner alignment lined up. Your thoughts are in line with your heart and soul's desires. After we take care of really how you navigate yourself, we'll talk about your passion. We'll talk about how you're different than other people. And then we'll talk about that normal human stuff. From there, we go on to relationships. There are 3 primary relationships that all people have. And there are 4 different ways that our human relationships show up. And when you become aware of how your relationship is shown up and how you respond in that particular situation, really, really, really cool things happen. And it's a lot easier to continue to maintain healthy relationships with other people. And even if they're not in a good place, you're going to be able to not get that ick on you. And then what we're going to do in the course is move on to dealing with complaints and what you do with those kind of things. There are actually 2 ways to complain that are constructive, and there are ways to complain that are disempowering. At the end of the course, you will end with a guidebook. It is called Watering the Trees, and it's a great tool to use every day or at least 5 days a week. When you plant a new seed, you need to tend to it pretty regularly, at least by watering it so it doesn't dry out. The same with our goals. But in the guidebook, you will be able to use all of the things that you're learning and all of the tools that you'll be getting in class so that you are exercising this new focus and being able to make it your predominant way of responding to any challenge. Personal leadership masters are people who consistently navigate the challenge that goes on both within them and outside of them by leading yourself to the answer inside first and then responding from your power. I hope you join class. I hope you see the benefit of what it would be to be in class 8 times, consistently hearing this work, having a week of life go on in between so you can get stronger in it, come back, get reminded, and get the growth that you've been waiting for in your life and the tools that you can use for the rest of your life. If you're ready to register, please register for the class below. And if you're not, I have a few more things to talk to you about next so that you can be more certain. It is important that you show up in a way where you feel certain and confident, or fearlessly fearful, scared, excited, and all those things going on, yet certain that you're doing the right thing and proud of yourself for moving yourself forward in a new way.